Welcome, everyone, to the next perfect step. I'm Lori Mullen, and I'm an energy practitioner who believes that everyone can create a blissful life.
Hi, I'm Lori Tremblay, and I'm also an energy practitioner and Reiki master teacher. We're excited to talk to each other guests about their spiritual path. And today we have an amazing guest, Joanie Rossi. She was on our first episode last July, right before her birthday, and we love having her back. Welcome, Joanie. She's an amazing reader, an intuitive healer, and we just want to welcome you, Joanie.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be back, but be here today, and I'm excited. So,
Good. Well, we're just going to ask you a couple questions. Like, how did you get started on your spiritual journey? Were you intuitive as a child?
Yes, and I didn't realize it until I started doing energy work about 10 years ago, roughly. I can remember just looking at someone and just knowing, like I didn't have to see an aura. I just felt a sense, like my inner gut, which we all have that ability anyway. But one incident I'd like to talk about, or one situation, was where one of my neighbors, she was a young kid, young girl, a few years older than me, didn't get along with her stepfather very well, and he had passed, and she had come to the house to share this information. But I would look at her face and I could see a smile. And I know this sounds like really like crazy, but to me, I'm only 6. I can remember as far back as 6 years old, seeing her face. Now in front of my siblings, my parents, and her sister, I looked at her and I said, look at her, she's laughing. She's laughing. And I remember my mother escorted me to my room, and of course she punished me, but I got yelled at for that. And when I look back on that, I realized that I could see beyond that veil. I could see beyond the scope of our, of what we just see in front of us every day. And, looking back on that now, I understand that started very young. I could just look at people and just know that I couldn't connect, or I felt a good connection. You know what I mean? So that inner knowing at such a young age. And I knew I was an empath. Now looking back at that, I was an empath from day one. Just had that, but yeah.
Do you feel like you got shut down a little bit, like with your, the reaction from your family or teachers or something? Yeah, that happens a lot, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Yeah. Happened from, I can remember being in my first grade class, because I was held back that year in first grade. I would sing out in class, just start singing, because I do sing professionally, that was my thing. And I would be very disruptive, having ADHD and all that. But when I was nervous, that's what I would do. Crack jokes, humor was my crutch, my coping mechanism, if you will. And in a world that I didn't fit in. And I could tell you some funny stories, but I'm keeping you here for 3 days straight. But that was my theme throughout my school years, and dealing with just people in general. That wasn't. It was a hard world to live in with people that didn't understand me. I remember my family. When people would come over to look at the family album, everyone would have we'd have our birth certificates. My parents would hold mine up saying that's the adoption papers, so that was a definitive statement saying that, I didn't fit in, totally different from the rest. And so, going through life thinking that I was this outcast, I didn't have a right to say anything. I didn't have a right to feel confident in my own skin. So, and of course, I was left out of left field spiritually. I denounced a lot of things. And then about 10 years ago, I connected with this woman that said, she saw what I couldn't see. She saw what I suppressed. And that's when I started the Munaiki rites, which were phenomenal. Went through a lot of healing, physical healing, emotional healing, lots of crying. When I think about it, it just, I think we're never done releasing a lot of stuff. You know, when you're an empath, you absorb a lot, and sometimes you don't realize you do. And when you don't think you're worthy enough to accept that higher vibration, that's where things just come in. They come in and attack. So, but I'll start from 10 years up right now, saying that that's when I really started to feel that I was a spiritual being, that I was on such a high vibration that's been suppressed. And that was the start of my healing journey, you know. So, and it's blessed me a lot with my readings. They become more clear, concise, because I let spirit in. So, yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate with your story. I mean, I think a lot of people feel, suppressed and think their word doesn't matter. And I think the last couple of years, worthiness has been a big theme with a lot of people.
Yes.
So I'm sure a lot of people can relate with your. So what brought you from there to doing card readings?
Glad you asked that. I was thinking about that this morning, trying to go back into the history of how I started so I could have a concise story and I wouldn't leave things out. But at age 20, that was like the age for me to come out and live. And I haven't lived prior to that because of all the suppression. But my sister and a bunch of her friends were going to this woman, Tippy. She lived in Lynn, right on the Salem-Lynn border. Beautiful home. I could always remember the room full of dolls. It stuck out with me. I don't know why, but she collected beautiful dolls and she would always give us that tour when we walked in. But anyway, we sat at this huge table, like a 20-seated table. There was a group of us. She didn't do individual. And if she did, it was more money, but whatever the case, she would do these group meetings. She would incorporate coffee. So she would read your coffee cup and then she would do your cards in her own special way. Not so much the way I read, but what I admired about her and how I try to model my own readings, which is just, be yourself, tell it like it is. And she did. For some reason, she would hit on a few things with me, but I don't know if it's because I was blocking at the time. I don't know, but I know she hit with a lot of people and I was impressed with her, with her coffee cup and her prowess. But I didn't have a lot going on in my life. And that's probably why I was just starting to get out. My sister was trying to introduce me to the world, but it did influence me a lot. And it intrigued me a lot. But to me, I'm like, how does anyone do that? And of course, at that time with the suppression, I was really, my abilities were very much, squelched. It was around the age of 25 that I met up with my good friend Christian, and it was in Salem. Of course, prior to that, we had met on the job when I worked at Stop and Shop, and I was intrigued by his energy. When we first met, we stared into each other's eyes. We started to laugh, and from there, it was a beautiful friendship. So at the time, I was living in Hamilton, and I was living with a friend of mine. She had me moving with her to her grandmother's house. Her grandmother had actually died in the home between the living room and kitchen. It was right on the threshold. I have to mention this because this has meaning later. So I was talking with Christian and he told me how he reads cards and da-da-da-da. So I invited him over to dinner one night. Rob and I were going to plan a nice little meal, have him come over. I said, for me, I kind of want to test the water, see how good he is, And he came over, and as soon as he walked in, he went right to that threshold. He said, someone died here, someone died violently. Robin ran to her room. She was hysterical. Of course, it naturally hit her. It was a grandmother. I just sat there and I was shaking. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm impressed. So once we got Robin calmed down or whatever, and we chatted, that's when I kind of started, like, I really wanted to get into the cards. And he introduced me to the Rider-Waite Smith deck, which is the universal, Smith deck. Everyone knows about that one. And I taught myself. He kind of guided me, but it's one of those things where I know you two read cards as well. When you do card readings, it's a very interpersonal thing how we interpret the deck. And of course, it's good to learn about the generalities of the deck, each card meaning and whatnot. But I learned, like what my friend Marcia had told me, to let go of the ego when you read. And that I learned over the past 5 years. And I started kind of honing in on my own style of reading as time went on. I would take bits and pieces of what everyone did, but then I would realize but that's what they do. I want to trust myself even more. And that's where the confidence comes in. That's where the, the spiritual connection comes in, to trust my higher good and my higher power. And my readings got stronger, I would say, over the past 5 years, because I started really doing some good spiritual work. And you two were definitely catalysts in that as well, to help me achieve that even stronger. And then meeting up with my friend Irene, who had connected me with the Lightarian, which really, really opened up. So, and that's what brought me to the present state. My grandmother also read, had my cards read again by her when I was 22, and she used the regular, regular playing card deck, which is derived from the tarot. And she was just uncanny. That was another influence. She was just amazing. And so from there, from 25 up to now, almost 35 years, I've been reading cards, and started doing it in a shop in Salem 5 years ago. That was my first official doing it professionally. So, in that commercial setting. So
You have to
that's
say
it.
that Lori and I have had readings from you several times, and I just think you're amazing. Your intuition is spot on, and it's helped guide my life in certain pivotal points. And I just think, you take your time, you give a lot of information, and it's really been helpful for me. And I want to thank you publicly for your wonderful work. I can just tell you that, Lori and I have really appreciated your gifts.
Grateful. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you so much. I mean, we're the catalysts, and we work with these guides and our ancestors, and to be able to channel that energy in and to help people is huge. And I'm just so grateful that I could do that for you. Just so grateful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Joanie gave me my birthday, my 50th birthday reading the other day, and just amazing. The perspective, spot on, confirmation that Joanie comes from. And I want to say it's in an amazing way too. You don't ask any questions. She doesn't want any information. She just channels, reads the cards, and you don't say anything. You don't say anything. She just, channels and says what comes through, and spot on. You're very, very talented.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lori.
But I want to ask you something you said. So is it possible for people to block you as a reader, like themselves? I know like
sure.
you talked about like a lot of people, which goes with why people either are kind of afraid or don't believe sometimes. They want to hear what they want to hear. Like they come in like asking about a love relationship, and they want to hear that they've met their soulmate, and you can't tell them that. And so they're upset by it. So,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
want to hear what they want to hear, but can they block you?
Absolutely. I could tell you a couple of stories. Yeah, it's sad. It's like living life on life's terms. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Or they walk up to the cards with intrepidation, like, I'm scared. I'm like, well, unless you're an escape convict, you're in the witness protection, or you murdered someone yesterday, I don't know what you're scared about. And we're the dreamers of the dreams. We're the ones that control our destiny. Cards are a catalyst and a tool to help guide us, into that, and give us a little insight. And that's basically what it is. So I don't know what's to be scared about. But then some people are, because movies and TV and whatnot are bad readings, bad,
Well, right. And we've
invalid
always
readings.
said, like, you are the creator of your own world. So you as a reader tell people where they're headed right now, unless
Yes.
they change something. And so a reading is an opportunity to see where you're headed and have the power to change. If that's
Exactly.
what you want.
Exactly. I'm not telling you definitively, you gotta do this. I mean, it's merely a suggestion. You know what? Life has a degree of flux. So I tell people, do not etch this stuff in stone. Just relax and enjoy listening to what you're hearing. And I also look at it as a warning also, as a way of saying, just be careful the way the way you interpret this, the way you the way you approach this, or whatever's going on in your life. You know what I mean? It's definitely a catalyst. It's a tool. And, we all have the guidance from our spirit guides, but sometimes we don't listen. So certain things that happen in our lives, it'll come out in the cards, and I always read what's meant to be read. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Like, For example, I had this woman, she was real estate broker, well dressed, the whole, she owned a business, big that, whatever. I never asked what she does, whatever. She sat down, and was her stance with her legs crossed. And this was her reading, like, this was her, persona. And of course, when you read too, I'm not going to lie, I'll tell you the truth. It's with everybody. We go by body language. When you talk with someone, they get their arms crossed like this, you approach with ginger fingers, you know what I mean? And then you ask them, or you tell them, look, if something's sensitive, just stop me. Just if you're not ready to hear it, just let me know. I don't know if I'm ready to hear that. You know what I mean? And we'll go on to the next or something, or whatever. But I like to tell it like it is too. So she had this trepidated look like this. So I laid the cards out, looked at them, and I says, all right, I'm looking at the cards, but I can't see them. And she's looking at me like I'm a crackpot. I said, I can't see them. I said, first of all, I'm looking at your posture. You're blocking stuff. You know what I mean? I says, you're in my world now. You know what I mean? You're in the world of the spirit and the realm. You're sitting here for a reason. So I says, and why is it that you and your father butt heads all the time? You both are the same, but you clash. Well, she took her arms down, put her foot down, she went, ah. And then all of a sudden, this big smile. I could feel the energy change. All of a sudden, she opened up that channel. I'm like, I'm getting chills talking about it. I'm getting goosebumps. And she's like, and I'm just like, thank you. Thank you. Now I can see the cards. Now let's get into the reading. And from there on in, she hugged me. She shook my hand, actually thanked me after. And I'm like, some people come in like that. I had a guy from New York calling me multiple times. Every single day he wanted his cards read. Another reader, who I won't mention their name, would do it. Well, hey, it's money. You know what? That doesn't matter, though. You know what I mean? I mean, like you said earlier, the love life. He wanted to know if this person was going to come back into his life. It's like, well, I think I told you yesterday, I don't see any of that. I see something else going on. I don't even see that. So, but he wanted every day. Finally, I had to shut him down and say, I can't do this. I can't do it. I'm not going to give you lip service. You're going to get the truth, or at least you're going to get what I'm sensing, what I'm hearing from the guides, what the cards are saying.
You're doing your work with integrity, which is,
Thank you.
That shows through, and that's important.
Every reader should do that. Absolutely. Yep. I mean, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I mean, and sometimes I will do a reading where maybe nothing will come of it because life has shifted. I could deal a set of cards out. You could pick a set of cards and then we could 5 hours later do it. And then something has shifted, or maybe the same theme might come out, but in a different way, maybe a different approach, because we are living beings. We do change our mindsets. So, or you could get a phone call the second we get done and something could change your life, something maybe devastating, something great. So yeah,
I think too, sometimes people are put off because of their religious teachings. They think that that's something that's, they shouldn't do, but it's not like that. It isn't. It's really loving. It's guidance from your higher self, guidance from your spirit guides. It's loving. Every time that I've gotten a reading from you, it's just so loving and encouraging, and there's nothing that's to be afraid of, as you said.
No, people can, come like I see someone around you that's blah blah blah, that's very negative connotation. Of course, that's the balance of life. We can have the negative and the positive, and somehow that molds us and helps us to grow in some form. But to be able to read in a way where if the person's going to cry, I don't want it to be where it's going to sit in a negative way. Maybe they needed to hear something that helps them to finally just say, oh, they're facing their ghost. They're facing that fear, and it's helping them to release that. And, there's always a way out. There's always that light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes I think we are our own worst enemy, not being able to find that light, because we let other things influence us. You know what I mean? And instead of believing in ourselves, majority of my readings are people that are caretakers. They're trying to mother the rest of the world instead of taking care of themselves. So of course they're chaotic, situations that are going on in their life. Sometimes they're mostly self-inflicted, if you think about it, you know what I mean? So trying to guide them to find a way out. Or maybe they're not ready to hear that it's time to take care of you. It's time to nurture you. And it's a process, it's a work in progress. And but trying to stay on that even keel is very hard because it's comfortable to fall back into the external forces, controlling us. And sometimes the truth is hard to face when you have the cards. Well, you pick the cards, you you pick them. So, whether they're ready to hear it is another story. But
Well, I think that that's important what you said, like it's confirmation. So, like you say somebody negative is around you and you could say, well, I knew that, but you didn't want, you questioned yourself, right? Now you can say, yep, I knew that, but it's still your choice what to do with it. You can keep the negative person around you. It's your choice.
yeah, right.
And it's your journey. It's your lesson. So that negative person is around you for a reason, either to set a clear boundary or whatever lesson there is to learn from that.
Absolutely.
It's there for a reason. But it's just, then again, it wasn't a negative reading or a scary reading to have somebody tell you there's somebody negative around you. It's just either confirmation or clarity that,
Right.
okay, maybe I don't know who that negative person around me is. So maybe I need to start setting better boundaries about myself.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. It's giving just somebody insight just to guide them.
Right.
Whatever I tell them, I'm not telling them you got to do this. Otherwise your ear's going to fall off. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, it's just giving you some guidance. It's giving you a chance to have choices and to make the best choices. I had one woman, it was when I first started working at that shop in Salem, and one woman, she brought her 16-year-old niece in. Now, I'm not good with people under the age of 25. I mean, at that point, like back when I had my first reading at 20, nothing much was said. Nothing really came through. I didn't really live my life at that time. From 25 up, it kind of gives you a little bit of a building block, like a foundation. You know what I mean? But this girl, I knew she had something attached to her. How do you explain that to someone without scaring them? It was like this energy that she kept, like how some people just carry like that ghost within them. And I was just trying to tell her in a nice way, it just seems like there's an energy attached, and there's a way of like Laurie said, there's a way of doing reading the cards and explaining what's going on with them without making this person feel like they got a second head grown out of their shoulders. You know what I mean? Like, or they got that like an evil spirit following. You know what I mean? Just like there's sometimes we hold on to certain energy that isn't conducive to our well-being and to our growth. And I told her maybe there's a chance that you could, to get yourself into like maybe therapy or counseling or some sort of like talking to someone, trying to, help guide you, because it felt like she had a lot of stuff going on. It was a very big, reading it's sometimes it doesn't go as smooth. And you might see some things that aren't so positive. And how do you approach that in a genteel way? Because you're dealing with people that you don't know what their personality is like. Sometimes they'll shut down. You don't know how sensitive they are. So there's a lot of, well, I guess her aunt had called the next day and said, this woman told my niece that there was a demon connected to her. And I never said those words. I would never use that kind of context. Right. Her energy was off. So she never called back. She never followed up with it. And, I hope that young girl got the help she needed, but that kind of spooked me into, it's like, you get discouraged sometimes with readings like that. Not all of them are going to go smooth, but it also teaches me, and it's a learning process, how to approach certain subjects like that. And so, there's that upswing and then there's the downswing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to share a little bit of my experience. So when I did a reading, I was asked a yes or no question from somebody who had passed away in their family. Okay. And, the question was, are they happy with the situation that was left behind? And the card I pulled was no. And I froze. I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to tell this woman this? And because I froze, she knew it. She said the answer was no. And I was honest. So I was honest with her. I was like, yes, the answer is no. And we were able to talk about it. And by the time she left, there was a whole, it had lifted. There was, she knew what she needed to do to fix the situation. She knew what the situation was coming from. we kind of got to the root of why the person who had passed was unhappy with the situation, brought a lot of clarity. But that was one of the toughest, probably the toughest reading I had to do, was to actually say, yeah, the person said no, because that was like heart-wrenching. I knew that was not the answer we wanted.
Yes, yes. Oh, I know,
know,
I know.
But you had to,
right?
but it was good that it had come out because it got to the root of the problem.
Right. And it also gives her like, well, if that says no now, then I need to think of other alternatives. You know what I mean? Maybe there's some other, instance, or I have to accept, yeah. I just recently had a reading with a woman. She's seen an oncologist, and of course that means, she has cancer. And she said, could you lay down some cards to see if this house is going to be, if we're going to be getting, moving into this new home, or we're going to get this condo. First card that came up was never. And of course, when you see that, like you said, that feeling of the blood draining from your face, and I'm like, oh, shoot. But this was in her past placement, but still, sometimes nothing's etched in stone. So I said, this is the way I read. It's the very first time I read for her. And I said, the way I read is I tell it like it is. Whatever comes up, I go with it, because it's what spirit and guides want me to do. So, and then I explained to her, this is the card. I think this is based on your mindset. This is based on maybe deeply what you're thinking of, or however I read it. And, but that said that maybe we need a new approach. She said, or maybe I just have to accept what is right now. I didn't ask her, of course, like, Laurie said, I don't ask questions. I didn't ask her how far along this cancer is, but, yeah, it can be devastating when you get these cards that seem like they have negative connotations. It's like, dang, but this is where the ego comes in. And this is what my friend Marcia Nickerson told me. Do not let the ego ride into your readings, because you can't control. You're not, quote unquote, the goddess. You're not a god, a goddess, or whatever,
You're the messenger.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm the catalyst, but I have to go with what is being said, and, knowing how to articulate it in a way that doesn't devastate the person, but lets them know at this time. Because remember, life has that degree of flux, and that's key when you're doing readings, to remember that, honey, this ain't etched in stone. This could change in an hour from now, 2 seconds from now. So, just gather the information and just let it sink in a little bit, give it some credence, but don't put all your wahoo there. And of course, there's 3 different types of what they call currents, which are the people receiving the readings. There are 3 different types. There's the ones that are like shut down complete, like like stones, like reading to a wall. And then there are some that are, okay, the perfect kind of parent to read for. I'll listen. I'm good. I'm open. And then there's the ones that are like that guy from New York. I got to hear every single I had to do his daily, short of changing his socks for him. I had to, give him the guidance every single day. And it's like, the perfect one is just to absorb what you hear, but don't etch it in stone. Things could change, so.
Sounded like with that guy, though, he wanted to hear a different outcome. So he was calling every day for you to change your mind and tell him what he wanted to hear, instead of facing or changing. Yeah.
That's the worst kind, and not to say that I haven't asked questions before, but sometimes, I try to do it in a way where I don't want information, but I want to kind of like maybe a quick yes or no or something or whatever. But, and then there's some that try to spill their guts with it. And I'm like, I don't want to hear nothing. Don't say anything. I don't want to influence this reading. You know what I mean? Let's read with what is supposed to come out, and I don't want to hear any more than that. This one girl that walked into the shop one time, and I was on for readings that day, and she goes, I could tell you're gonna be a spot on reader for me today, blah 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 blah. But during the whole reading, as I was flipping a card, she says, well, no, you're supposed to say this, or I don't want to hear that. That's just, and she's telling me how to read. So I pushed the cards over to her. I said, all right, then read your own cards, because basically, what am I here for? I said, you want me to read your cards because you trust in spirit, or do you want to hear your own narrative? Then what am I here for? And, the manipulation and control, because it's fueled by fear. And, but you had made a point about, religious connotations. Sometimes people don't believe in it. What's interesting is the very first deck that they know of came out in Italy. It was called Tarocchi, and it was made actually as a playing game. And it was only, I think, the first 22 arcana, which was the first trump cards. And maybe some court cards. I'm trying to remember. Don't quote me on that. But it was actually based in Christian connotations. So if they really want to ask questions about the tarot, it was actually based in religious background, based in the Christian tonalities, or the like the saints and stuff like that, So, and then eventually it was turned, the gypsies had taken it over. The nomadic gypsies had taken it over and started using it into an actual divinatory, stance. But of course, there's more history, delved into that. My memory's not that great, but I know the basics, that it did start out like that. And they still have that deck, and it's in a museum. I forget what, if it's in Milan someplace, but yeah, that was the very first. In the 14th century it came out. So 13th, 14th, 15th century. So it did start out as like a playing game.
Yeah, that's
And,
interesting.
Yeah.
So, Joanie, how would you feel about doing a very brief reading for our listeners? Like, and maybe just kind of a out to the world, like whatever you feel, maybe just a few cards, and then we'll I just want to let everyone know too that you can I would encourage you to reach out to Joanie for a reading. She does it via Zoom or in person, but she's, treat yourself, I would say. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
I would love
or
that.
over the phone. Yeah.
over the
Yeah,
phone.
The phone,
yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe a reading about what we have to look forward to this year and what our challenges are and what we can do to help us get through this next year.
Okay, let's do that. Let's all right, I want to do my Rider-Waite Smith. I think I'm going to pick out my herbal astrology because astrologically we're in the age of Aquarius, so I think that's very powerful. And I'm going to go by my intuition, of course, when I pass these out. I'm going to just shuffle these out a little bit. And of course, when I bang the cards out, it just bangs out the energy, kind of resets them a little bit, like a refresher. So kind of like a cleansing. Okay. So if you also, the two of you could also join in. I just want to kind of just hold on to the cards a little bit and just put a little energy into them. If you want to yank out some of your little energy to send out to the universe. I want this, the three cards I'm going to pass out are going to pick right now are for the universal good, for all of our highest good, for the readers and for the world, and gain a little insight into what's to come. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna get those cards out right now. Okay, so I'm also gonna, because you two are just wonderful with your energy, I would love to have the three of us pick out a card. How's that? Whoever wants to start. I'll start with my card, and then whoever wants to go next.
Or you can go next.
Right here. Okay, so I picked up my card, and just tell me to stop.
Stop.
Okay, perfect. Felt a lot of energy with that one, and now Laurie Mullen.
Stop.
Oh my God, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one. Okay. All right. So this is great because we'll have all three of our connections here. So this is the first one and the second one and the third one. So with the herbal astrology deck, and I will show you the cover of this deck. It's a beautiful, I love this, absolutely love this deck. Just the cards in here are amazing, the energy. But let's get into this. So the first card I pick is Lemon Balm for nurture. Okay. So this is going with the present situation right now. Okay. And let me just look that up. Just opened up right up to the page. So I guess it really wants everyone to hear this. So it's the Earth Mother. It's access to the ways of the Earth, the planetary guardian, balance of feelings and emotions, and nurturance. Okay. And the astrological rulers are Ceres and Jupiter. I'm going to jump right to the guidance of this. Give yourself permission to mother the deepest core of yourself. So listen to your inner child, retrieve the unconscious parts of your past, forgive yourself, and liberate the inner child that has remained silenced. Lemon Balm assists us in reconnecting to the gentle power of nurturance. Her soft and gentle touch reminds us to connect to the great mother in all of her shapes and forms. The medicine of honeybee is here to serve you. And I'll show you what the card looks like. That would help. So that everyone's kind of like connected to that. So it's a beautiful card. Look at that honeybee right above her. And so that's that. And it's to serve you, prompting you to ask yourself, where can I soften and receive? How can I access my inner child and access great wholeness? Honeybee symbolizes the magic of nectar, vitality, prosperity, and the great inner and outer wealth that is ahead. So there are some things to look forward to in 2024, presently right now as it stands. And it's out there for our grasp, so cat's claw is next. I will show you that card. That's beautiful. Just love, love, love that.
Pretty.
Beautiful card right there. That's number 25. We skip over to that. Cat's claw right here. So that's purification. Our best course of action right now with that card is purification, cat's claw. Okay. So cleansing, getting all the flotsam and jetsam out of the way. So that way we can forge forward. And that means our emotional, our spiritual, our mental, and our physical, all realms. We're part of the cosmos. So makes sense. Upright is rewriting the story, connecting to heritage, belonging, worthiness, safety, connecting to your origins, and DNA purification. That's very immense. The astrological rulers are Mars and Pluto. Okay. Our guidance is cat's claws, powerfully protects our sacred essence, our blood, and our DNA. Like the Black Panther, it is regarded, and I'll hold the card again up a little bit if you could see it. It is regarded as one of the mighty protectors of the sacred ways of the forest. Cat's claw is here today to help remove blockages, wounding, or trauma. Energetically, cat's claw clears ancestral trauma, deeply assisting our healing as we rewrite the story. So like the energy of the Black Panther, it roams through darkness with courage and curiosity to assist us in accessing the hidden light of truth. Okay, so facing our truth. This is a reminder to take this time to befriend the silence of the dark void. Okay, channel the gifts that your ancestors have provided and know that your path is loved and supported by life. Okay. This is an herb I never heard of, and it's kind of interesting. Definitely want to tap into this one. And 43, 42, here you are. It's called Amanita, and it looks like it's a mushroom, Amanita. And that is a conduit. So our final outcome, or our, manifesting and putting whatever we manifest between the present situation and our best course of action, this is what we're going to do to put it out there into the universe, to get our work getting out there. So this is our final outcome. So Amanita is a conduit. So it's upright. It's conduit, channel, bridger of realities, definitely connecting with our ancestors, which is what we just talked about. Connection to higher powers, celebration, coming home, family. It's awakening. You couldn't have picked three better cards, right? So I'm going to go to the astrological ruler, which is Neptune, Pluto, and Mercury. Now, if you look into our charts, especially in our age group, Neptune and Pluto we're rediscovering, we're reopening that higher consciousness. That's very important. So we're reconnecting to Mother Earth and to the cosmos, because that's where we're from. Our DNA is where we're from. So the guidance is your channel is open. Earth spirits celebrate you as you come back home. So you feel one with nature, all of our offspring. You extend family, your extended family. You can clearly see through the veil, and your gift of profound insight is now at hand. You are here to be a bridge for the children of the earth. Okay, so we're a conduit of safety, because in a world where it seems like there's a lot of trafficking going on, there's a lot of uncertainty, women's rights, things like that. There's a lot, in safety and healing energy for the newer generations. We need this to come in. Okay, so when things are like the Tower card, everything's falling apart, that means it's clear, it falls apart, it clears the air, and then there's new energy coming in, new insight. So embody the medicine of children, laugh, sing, and play, spreading joy in the world, regardless of your age. If you feel disconnected, breathe. What did we just do in the beginning of this session? Thank goodness we did it too, because we took our breath. Focus on releasing old breath by emptying your lungs with long exhales. Explore by connecting to nature's cycles and co-create with your chosen family. Okay? To regain a sense of belonging. Perfect cards. The lemon balm, which is our nurture, and the cat's claw, purification. Let's get that foundation set up. And then the conduit, which is the amanita. Amanita.
Great. Beautiful.
I know, isn't it? I love the pictorial of this deck. I'm very particular. You know how when a deck just speaks to you.
Mhm. And that's an oracle
So,
deck. Yeah.
yeah,
Right
oh my God, it's
before
beautiful.
our right before when we were doing some centering before we started, the presence of Mother Mary came in. Just like the nurturing presence was very strong. So that's really beautiful.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We couldn't have picked three better cards, and it's good to connect with that. Like I said, unity in numbers, you know, unity and connecting and not feeling like, you know, you know, you can embrace the dark, but don't stay there. I think the dark almost like helps us to kind of like just kind of go within, you know what I mean? So we can find that foundation for the light, you know, and yeah, it's always a work in progress because, you know, our external forces sometimes create barriers, you know, when the people carry that bad energy or that whatever. And there's like that constant work on connecting with spirit, connecting with our guides, that Mother Mary energy, you know what I mean? Her soothing us, you know, when you get the God, that's the strength and and the masculine and the bear of the strength, like that in that way. But you also get the Mother Mary or that goddess nurturing, that mothering and that healing, getting back to self. And that's a big message that the world needs right now. You
Thank you
know,
so much. That was beautiful.
welcome.
That
Thank you
was
for,
beautiful.
thank you.
And we
Thank
will
you.
put a way to get in contact of her if you would like your own reading on your year ahead and guidance for this year and how you can get the good and the tough times. So all of Joan's readings, all of Joan's information will be down below so you can have your own personalized reading. And we'd
Treat
like
yourself.
to thank everybody for
Yeah.
joining us.
Yes.
Thank you. And until next time, how is your intuition guiding you to the next perfect